I first learned about sparking the customer experience when I went to work for Disney. Can you imagine 10 interviews over a 2-year period in a 10-page psychological analysis from the Gallup organization? That's right, that's what happened to me during my time going to work for Disney. And guess what? They hired me. What? So the first couple of days at Disney is spent at Disney University. And at Disney University is where I really begin to understand the power of sparking the customer experience. They begin to tell us the story about Walt Disney back in the late 50s and early 60s. And that's where I learned the real purpose for cast members at Disney. Employees are called cast members. Our real purpose was to create happiness by providing the finest entertainment anywhere in the world. So no matter what you did in your role at Disney, every single day you had to wake up to create happiness. It's also where I discovered the difference between an average moment and a magical moment. An average moment is just showing up for a job. And you know, a job stands for just overboard. But a magic moment is looking for the opportunity to surprise and delight the customer. What? That's right. That's where it happened. So when I begin to understand that, I quit my job. I mean this figuratively, not literally. I quit my job at Disney and I went to work at Disney because I wanted to understand how could I create a magic moment every single day. Well, as you can imagine, my curiosity got the best of me. So for the last 18 years, I have been on a search to really understand how do the best brands like T-Mobile every single day create customer love and spark the customer experience every day, every week, every month, and every year. And guess what? I think I found the answer. Here's what I've discovered. Men and women that love what they do every single day. They have happiness in their eyes, they have joy in their heart, and they have helping hands that are willing to work. What? That's the joy bomb right there. They wake up every single day to discover, how do I become the spark for customers? So I looked at this and I said, wait a minute. If a person shows up every single day, happiness in their eyes, joy in their heart, hands ready to help, that's an emotionologist. You're probably saying, Simon, what's an emotionologist? Yeah, I know. It's a word that I created. An emotionologist is an individual who understands the art and science of creating a memorable moment. Why memorable moments? Because Dr. Daniel Kahneman, professor emeritus at Princeton University, a Nobel Prize winning laureate, says in his research, there are 19,200 daily moments. That's right, 19,200 daily moments. So as T-Mobile experts, every single day you wake up and you have the opportunity to create that moment that allows you to be number one for customer service and for customers to be number one in your heart. So the question is, Simon, okay, emotionology. How do we get there? I'm so happy you asked the question because I'm going to share with you 5 principles that are tried and true. Now, I realize that these principles will stand the test of time, but the application will look differently based on the situation. So, the first principle is, how do we see them as guests and commit to connecting? I have learned in almost 30 years of working for 6 different companies, 10 different jobs, and a number of companies since I left the Mouse House, is that it's all about connection. I'll never forget, I go to work for Disney, and what I didn't realize is that when the parks get really busy in the summer, it's all hands on deck. So one day, I find myself working at Disney MGM Studios. I have on a blue smock, a broom, a dustpan in my hand, and my name tag that says Simon from Buffalo, New York. Go Bills! This could be the year! So it was a so-so day, and some guests were coming towards me because one of the things I learned at Disney University is that you didn't call them customers, you called them guests. Because when you begin to see them as a guest, that took on an entire different connotation as to how you treated them. So some guests were coming towards me and they caught a glimpse of my name tag. And they said, "You're from Buffalo, New York." I said, "Yes." They said, "We're from Buffalo, New York." Like, no way. They're like, "Where'd you go to school? Where'd you grow up? Where did your parents live?" I didn't know these people from Adam's House Cat, let alone from a can of paint, but we're having a major conversation. So I said, "What have you done since you've been here at Disney?" They're like, "Oh, we've gone to Epcot, we've gone to Magic Kingdom, we've gone to Animal Kingdom." I said, "Now that you're here at MGM, you have to ride Tower of Terror." By show of hands, how many of you have ever been on Tower of Terror? Okay, if you have not been on Tower of Terror, this is a major bucket list item. Imagine a 13-story elevator shaft that takes you up and drops you. You scream your bloody guts out. It is phenomenal. And then I said, when you get done, go and eat at the Brown Derby, which is old Hollywood with a Disney twist, and make sure you experience Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. So it was there. They said, okay. And a couple hours later, I'm back at my desk, and I'm drinking something cold to cool off. And that's when I had the whack upside the head. Disney never sent me out to the park to sweep the streets. They sent me out to the park to connect with a family that had probably saved 3 to 5 years of their discretionary income to come to Disney for maybe once in their lifetime. And a family of 4 in a 7-day stay, according to Disney Business Analytics, will spend about $10,000. So it was in that moment where the customer experience and the guest experience was sparked for me, and I was like, wait a minute, it's all about seeing them as a guest and recognizing how you can help them take that experience to another level. But Susan, a T-Mobile expert, had this opportunity to see a T-Mobile guest through the lens of committing to connecting. David and his wife, Anita, had been married for 33 years, and 32 years of their marriage, Anita had MS. And what's interesting about their journey is that this particular year, they didn't have a Christmas. So when Susan was talking to David, he began to explain what had happened. Their 12-year-old son had missed out on Christmas because they had been in the hospital worrying if Anita was going to make it, and she did. Susan, recognizing this opportunity, wanted to offer them something, so said, "Let me give you a gift card so that you can enjoy Christmas." And David and Anita said, "No, we want to pay it forward." So what did they decide to do? In talking with Susan, Susan went to management, and she began to explain what David and Anita and their son had been through. And she came back to them and said, "What if?" And sure enough, in paying it forward, David and Anita said, "You know what? We want to give 28 turkeys to families that are in need in rural Missouri." So sure enough, not only were they able to do this, but David and Anita and their 12-year-old son, along with the support of T-Mobile, were able to impact a community. Now let's step back and just analyze this for a moment. Susan, the T-Mobile expert, recognized in an instant, what? Here's what we can do, and went to management. I believe when we see individuals through the lens of a guest, we're looking for the opportunity to not just communicate, but to connect. And when we connect as an emotionologist, what's happening in that moment, there's an alignment of your head, your heart, and your hands. And when you have that internal alignment, it creates external execution. So in other words, when I see through the lens of a guest, I really begin to understand that a paycheck is given to people who show up, but opportunities are given to individuals who think and work beyond what they're paid to do. What? what? That's a joy bomb. So when that happens every single day, there's happiness in their eyes, even through the mask. I know, but you can smile with your eyes because there's joy in your heart and your hands are ready to help. Second principle, building on the first one, is personalizing the experience by individualizing the moment. Now, here's the deal. Research says, according to Gallup, that 70% of human decision-making is emotional, 30% rational. So when people emotionally connect with a brand, now hold the phone. A brand is an emotion, a connection, a perception, a moment, and a memory. So when people emotionally connect with that brand, here's what the research says. They spend more, pay a higher margin, and then will yelp about it and tell others about this experience. And when that happens, oh my goodness, that's when it's on. Not too long ago, I had an opportunity to work with Signet Jewelers, that one of the brands they own is Jared, and I said to them, I want to understand, in a retail environment, what is it that you do to really personalize the experience? And they shared a story with me that I was like, what? So Kira, who works for Jared Jewelers, one day she was just having a moment and really wondering if the work that she was doing, if it was really making a difference, if there was really a purpose behind it. Did it really connect to customers, or was it just something to do? And on this particular day, it happened to be a Thursday, Kira received an email at 5:36 p.m. from a customer named Lee. Lee had been to her Jarrett location and had picked out a wedding band for her husband, Marcus. And she left the wedding band at the store to have it engraved. Well, as fate would have it, the store was closed because of COVID-19. And Lee was planning to present this surprise gift to Marcus, but the store is closed. What is she going to do? So she sends the email to Kira, and Kira begins to read it. And Lee said, if there is any way you can get our wedding band, would love to have it so that we can have it blessed and that we might just survive during this pandemic. Well, what's interesting about Lee, she is a trauma nurse, and Marcus, her husband, was a firefighter who had a traumatic brain injury. And Lee was just really nervous if Jared would be able to do this. So sure enough, Kira reached out to Signet leadership, loss prevention, legal. She reached out to authorities to say, how can we make this happen? And by 11 a.m. the next day, she had the wedding band in her hand. So she calls Lee on the phone and she said, Lee, guess what? I have the wedding band. And Lee burst into tears because she thought what was only a miracle would never happen. And after just collecting herself, she said to Kira, thank you, and hung up the phone. Well, Kira thought that was the end of it until she got a text from Lee. And Lee said, now Marcus will have a wedding band. And I am so happy that Jared went above and beyond. What's interesting, when Kira sent her back the text to say, thank you so much, we are so happy that we could provide this experience for you, Kira recognized, you know what? What I do in retail, it does matter. It does make a difference every single day. And as I was researching this story, because I had to share with almost 2,000 of the Signet managers from all over the country virtually, and when Kira shared this story, it's like, what? Oh my goodness. Personalizing the experience by individualizing the moment is to really slow down, to really understand, where is that customer right now in that moment? What is their emotional level? Can you imagine when Lee is sending this email to Kira? What will Kira think about it? What will she do? And I believe when you're in the business of customer experience, if you hear it, you own it. And when you own it, what? You act like an owner. It says, wait a minute, let me go to management and say, here's what's up. What can we do? And what's so powerful about this is that, do you know that by the time a child is 17 years of age, they have heard no 150,000 times and only yes, wait for it, 5,000 times. So imagine Lee sending this email at 5:36 p.m., Kira deciding that I am going to be the yes to a potential no. I used to do some work for Ritz-Carlton Learning Institute, and one of the things that Ritz-Carlton always taught is that the answer is yes. Now, what's the question? What I believe that is so brilliant about what you do as a T-Mobile expert is that you have the ability to find the yes in the middle of the no. And it's that differentiation that allows you to be loved by customers. That's customer love. What? So customer love is making this decision that when I individualize the moment, that becomes an emotional imprint into the head and the heart of that guest. All right? Now, are you ready for principle number 3? How do we begin to anticipate their needs? Through listening and observing. And when we listen and observe, what amazing things happen. So a few years ago, I was traveling to Atlanta, Georgia, and checked into the Ritz-Carlton Atlanta. And I'm leaving the hotel to jump into a cab because I've got to get to a meeting. And it dawns on me that I had forgotten my USB headset. So I call back to the hotel and I ask for concierge, and they connect me to Jordan at the concierge desk. And I said, Jordan, I have a very important call this afternoon at 2 p.m. and I forgot my USB headset. Is there a Best Buy or electronic store that's close to the hotel that I can stop by after my meeting, pick up my headset, and make my 2 o'clock call? He says, yeah, about 10 minutes away, there's a Best Buy. So I continue on to my meeting, and the meeting was supposed to end at 12 noon. It ended at 1 o'clock, so now I'm racing to get back downtown to the Ritz-Carlton, and all of a sudden, my cell phone rings. And he says, Mr. Bailey? I said, yes, this is Jordan, the concierge at the Ritz-Carlton. We just want to let you know we went to Best Buy and picked up the USB headset, and we have already put it in your room, and we've added the charge of the USB headset to your hotel bill. I was like, what? Oh my goodness, that's what I'm talking about. Boom, boom. Jordan found a way to absolutely blow me away. So when I got back to the hotel, I said, Jordan, thank you so much. I went and I had my call. I made it on time, my new USB headset. And I started reflecting on that experience. I said, when Jordan joined the Ritz, did they tell him that you will be doing things like this? No, he made it up. He figured it out. He anticipated by listening. Now, here's the deal. The same letters that spell the word listen spell the word silent. That's right. I know you are testing me right now, T-Mobile experts. Let me just check this out. He might be trying to play Simon Says and pull a fast one. No, it's true. The same letters that spell the word listen spell the word silent. So when I really understand the power of listening, here's the net. Hearing is a courtesy, but listening is a compliment. Now, I share the Ritz-Carlton story with you because a few days later, I was traveling to Los Angeles to speak at an event. And I'm at the convention center, and I walked over to an employee who had a badge who looked like he worked at the convention center. And I said, hey, how do I get to so-and-so? And he looked at me as like, I don't know. And from the disposition that he had, he was not trying to help me. So I was like, Okay, obviously I'm in the city of angels and this is not a very angelic response. I didn't say that to him, I just gave him the screensaver face. Now, opposite side of town, I had to go to an event to take a client to lunch. And I said to the waiter, can you go ahead and bring the bill? And the waiter says to me, would you like for me to have valet bring your car around? I was like, what? That's what I'm talking about. He began to anticipate and then responded. So anticipatory service, this is the game changer. And you're probably saying, okay, Simon, if I'm really listening and observing, what's the net? The net is how do I listen between the sentences? Because when I begin to listen to what the customer or guest is really saying, the first thing I think about is using high-grade questions. High-grade questions is, first of all, saying, Richard, Heather, may I ask you a question? And they give you the permission, sure, go ahead. And the moment you ask that question, say, here's what I heard you say, is this what you meant? So when I'm really listening and observing, I'm not just listening to the words that are coming out of their mouth. You know, what are the cool movie lines? You know, Chris Tucker, do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? No, it's like, wait a minute. Richard, Heather, Kenna, here's what I heard you say. Is this what you meant? And it's really understanding when I'm in the business of the customer experience, what really separates brands right now is understanding what is meaningful and what do customers feel. Because when they feel the love, that's right, I said it, because T-Mobile, you don't do customer service, you do customer love. And when you do customer love, it is about the meaning and the feeling that they have as they engage with us. I did say us. I think I just gave y'all my resume. Can you hook me up with a job? Okay. So here's the deal. When I understand how to anticipate, then that leads me to the fourth principle, and that is how do we respond to a problem? And in responding to that problem, how do we create happiness or a happy moment or a happy customer instantly? So responding to the problem all of a sudden starts with, what can I do? Now, let me tell you why what can I do is such an important question. Dr. Christian Mirsky, who is a psychologist at Princeton University in their psychology department, says, when the brain is worried, the brain slows down. When the brain slows down, it doesn't create neurogenesis, which is the process of growing neurons, which grows the brain. So what happens is when the brain slows down, it slows down because can't, no, hasn't been done. But the moment you say, what can I do? What? That becomes the Control-Alt-Delete button that deletes from the mind drive and the hard drive those things that slow us down. So every single time you say, what can I do? You're looking for a way. What's interesting is there's a story of a T-Mobile employee who went with her mother to a T-Mobile employee-sponsored event. And at that event, they received stickers to remind them and commemorate the event. Well, the event was an incredible success, and this T-Mobile employee loved the sticker so much that she put it on her laptop. Well, her laptop started acting up, so she had to take her laptop to the Computer Fix-It Center, and they ended up giving her a new laptop. What? Who wouldn't want a new laptop? But what was interesting, that sticker that meant so much to her, that sticker was no longer on the new laptop. So she called the Computer Fix-It Center, and they said, guess what? Your laptop has already been cleared. And this was such a moment for her because that sticker meant a lot to her because it was the last time that her and her mother would have a time to be at an event together and receive this incredible gift. And whenever she looked at that sticker, it allowed her just to remember that moment with her mom. So she decided to call Mary. Mary was the event manager for this employee-sponsored event. And Mary said, we don't have any more stickers. But Mary made a mental note of what this T-Mobile employee was looking for. And Mary began to call around, and a week later, she called the T-Mobile employee, said, guess what? I have the sticker and we can put it on your laptop. What? Joy bomb, right? And so you're probably saying, Simon, the sticker was only worth maybe 20 cents. It's not so much that it was worth 20 cents. It was that a T-Mobile employee realized that we just can't talk about external customer love. We have to think about internal customer love, where we look for an opportunity to connect with what's most important to one of our own. So here's the challenge. What can we do as we think about sparking the customer experience? How do we spark the customer experience for those that we work with, especially if they're having problems? What does that begin to look like? You know, I had a chance to go to a T-Mobile store, and I walk into the store and I kind of like did a little peruse around, and I noticed two amazing T-Mobile experts. One was named Tony, the other was Jacqueline. Jacqueline was taking care of a customer, and it appeared from what I could tell that she was trying to figure something out. So Tony politely excused himself, came over to Jacqueline to help her, and saw the problem right there. Tony went back, taking care of his customer, and like, oh my goodness, look at this, what? They didn't know me from Adam's House Cat. I was just, in the building. But then I had my very own T-Mobile experience just a couple of days ago. So my son, Daniel, is in need of a phone. And I said, Daniel, we are going to T-Mobile. So we go to T-Mobile, and Gio is the person that takes care of us, the T-Mobile expert. And it wasn't just about the phone, but it was about the questions that he was asking my son, who had experienced problems with his previous phone. So all of a sudden, Gio is dialoguing with Daniel and says, hey, Daniel, where do you go to school? Daniel told him where he went to school. Gio says, oh my goodness, I graduated from that school. What? Instant bomb, tell me more about the school. But it was the conversation that was so powerful. And yes, we got the phone, and yes, Gio took care of us. When we got in the car, my son said to me, Dad, that was a different type of experience. I said, I know, that's T-Mobile, that's how they roll. So when we think about solving problems, the problem is really the opportunity. You know, what's interesting, a T-Mobile customer contacted T-Mobile about retrieving two important messages that he had lost. One message was from his daughter. The other message was from his wife, saying that they were bringing their second daughter home after a prolonged sickness. Well, he's talking to Jesse at T-Mobile, explaining to him that, hey, I lost these messages. Is there any way you can help me retrieve these messages? And Jesse did everything possible by empathizing with this T-Mobile customer, and he said to him, I'm gonna do everything I can. Well, Jesse bubbles this up, and it's a weekend, mind you, it's a weekend. He bubbles this up to management to say, hey, here's the problem, here's what's going on. Sure enough, early Sunday morning, the customer receives a call from a T-Mobile expert just documenting, hey, here's what has happened. We understand, we are working on it, got specific information, and then manage the customer's expectations by saying, here's when we will get back to you. What's so powerful about that, because when individuals have a problem, for them, it's like a big deal. But there are millions of problems that happen in a business. Well, sure enough, by 5 p.m. on a Sunday evening, that customer receives a call from two T-Mobile experts saying, guess what? We found the two messages. Please listen. Let us know if in fact these are the messages that you were looking for. And sure enough, the gentleman said, yes, those are the messages that I was looking for. Thank you so much. And here's what's powerful about what this customer said. He said, you know, when I dealt with T-Mobile, I felt like the headquarters was right down the road and I was the only customer that they were dealing with. What? He went on to say, I'm a cardiologist and a chief medical officer. And I know that this does not happen just because it's a culture where men and women every single day wake up to understand, how do I be the difference that makes the difference? That's what you do. And that is what I believe separates you from everybody else and why you are disrupting the wireless industry. Because the moment you hear a problem, you run to it and begin to say, what can we do instead of what we can't do? And it is that mindset that helps us look for the opportunity to exceed expectations every single day. Not because we have to, but because we want to. And when we have the want to, we'll get a chance to. So then that leads to principle number 5. How do we keep them loyal with intentional acts of kindness? Now, there are so many scientific benefits for kindness. Emory University says, when you begin to do something for others, there's a chemical released in your brain that literally lights up the pleasure and reward centers in our mind, almost as if we have just received something, even though we were the giver. It's called the helper's syndrome. It's called the helper syndrome. Can you believe that? So when I help somebody else, I just help myself. Kindness. But Case Western University also says in their research, when we are kind to someone else, it actually increases and improves our well-being. So intentional acts of kindness is looking for that opportunity to say, what can we do? What's so amazing is a T-Mobile expert happened to be talking with a customer who had called in to pay her bill. And she said, you know, I'm struggling financially after losing my job. I don't have food to put on the table and I don't have a Christmas tree. And the T-Mobile expert listened to this and said, you know, I'm going to talk to my manager. And what's interesting, their area had just been approved for a pilot program. So she told the customer, guess what? We are going to give you a Christmas tree and with ornaments, but wait, it gets better, and a Walmart card for you to go and buy gifts or dinner, whatever you need to do. And guess what? That right there in that moment, that customer said, thank you, because T-Mobile created a Christmas experience for this family. I believe kindness, when we live and do kindness, what we begin to understand that love, kindness, and respect have no color. And when we begin to tap in the kindness, it literally lights us up. You know, a few years ago, I was traveling from San Francisco to Detroit, AKA Detroit. And my flight got canceled and I had to be in Columbus, Ohio the next day. So I missed my connection, had to rent a car, no luggage, and I drive all the way to Columbus, Ohio from Detroit. And I wake up the next morning, I go on my apps on my phone to find if there's a men's store within the vicinity that I was staying in. There are 5 men's stores. My meeting is at 10:30 with a very important client. It's about 8:30 in the morning. And I call the first 4 stores, sorry, we don't open until 10 a.m. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I then call the 5th store and I get a live person on the phone. And I said, hi, I gotta buy clothes, I got an important meeting. And she says, hold on, let me transfer you to Trina, the manager. She transfers me to Trina and Trina says, you know, we don't normally do this. But if you pull around to a certain part of the mall, I'm going to have security roll up the doors. You'll be met by Ahmad. Just come in and buy whatever you need to buy. How many realized in that moment I was feeling the customer love? So sure enough, I pull around. I'm met by Ahmad. And Ahmad said, guess what, Mr. Bailey? We've already picked out a blazer, pants, a tie, a shirt for you, and you can go right in and try it on. And guess what? We already have a tailor here on site to do anything that we need to do. Now, here's the deal. The store didn't open up to 10 a.m., but they opened up for me early. It's now 8:45 a.m. I am feeling the love. So I go and try everything on. I'm now at the cash register. I pay for it. I thank our mod, and I just walk out of the store, and I tweak the experience. Thank you, Nordstrom, for this amazing experience. I get a tweet back from Nordstrom Corporate. Now, mind you, it's about 6 a.m. West Coast time. They said, listen, if you ever have another need, come by our store. And then I get a tweet from the store, from our mod and Trina. Have a great meeting. And if you ever come back to Columbus, Ohio, come by and see us. Ladies and gentlemen, that act of kindness is something that I will never forget. I believe that they had happiness in their eyes, joy in their heart, helping hands ready to engage. And because of that, I'm a big fan of their brand. If you want to keep sparking the customer experience, what can you do, T-Mobile expert? Because during this learning day, Team Magenta, you have the opportunity to take it to another level. Today, I've shared with you how to keep sparking the customer experience. Principle number 1, see them as guests and commit to connecting. What? Principle number 2, personalize the experience by individualizing the moment. Principle number 3, anticipate their needs by listening and observing. Then principle number 4, respond and acknowledge the problem and create happy customers. And then the final principle, number 5, wait for it, keep them loyal with intentional acts of kindness. T-Mobile experts, you have got this. I love you and I believe in you. There is not a darn thing you can do about it.